Okay, everybody, welcome to a new episode. We are Hoshirio. My name is Fernando, and we have here.
And this is Kaeko, and today we've got Kaisa. She's an old friend of mine who speaks many languages, and then she's going to tell us a few things about having the, multilingual brain. So, welcome, Kaisa.
Yay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Welcome.
creating this space. I think it's been beautiful to listen to your previous episodes, and I'm looking forward to hearing about your new episodes as well, and the other people who we are going to be
Oh,
talking to.
yeah, thank you.
Thank
So,
you so much. Thank you so much, Kaisa, for being part of this little project that
mm,
my friend Kaeko and I are just excited every time just to who can we interview, who would we like to be in part of
yeah.
this project. So we really appreciate that you're part of this as well.
Mm.
If I don't know if you want to just briefly kind of share with us, how did you started with for this, or do you want to share,
Ah,
how did you met, or just kind
mm,
of start from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So Kaiko and we were housemates when I was doing my first degree in England in Portsmouth. And I was just trying to figure out, it was over 20 years ago, but less than 30 years ago. How do you remember, Kaiko, when it was?
more than 30 years ago.
No, no, less than 30 years, but more than 20, I think.
Mm.
Early 2000 or something.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, a while ago. So we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I'm from Finland. And I
Mm.
feel like when Kaiko and I met, we just sort of clicked. We've shared so many experiences and long conversations and values in the past. When my daughter was born, I asked Kaiko to be my daughter's godmother, and because she's just a very beautiful person. So I'm grateful that you're in my life.
Oh, thank you.
And I think also about your art. We have actually still lots of art at home that you've created,
Yeah.
and I think my favorite is of our late dog Mally. She was a trilingual,
Oh, yeah.
um, highly intelligent mongrel dog that sadly passed away during COVID.
Mm.
But that picture is just beautiful. It brings me a lot of joy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
Fernando got his portrait being
yes,
by me.
I do. I do. Yeah, I do. I have it right here. Uh,
Oh,
in front of me actually. So yeah, Kaiko shared her
He
art with
to
with
accumulate
her
my.
friends. Mhm.
Yeah.
So you have quite stories to share. I imagine, being friends for what, over more than 20 years. So that's
mm,
yeah, that's quite some time. Well, good. Um, so part of this conversation today, Kai says, I mean, you're an expert on social linguistics. Do you want
yes.
to just kind of start kind of sharing a little bit with us, with the audience? What does a social linguistic and and in this
Yeah.
perhaps, yeah, I'll kind of let you just flow and express
Okay.
whatever you want to share with
Yeah,
us.
I
Yeah,
think I'll start with how I got into this because it's kind
awesome.
of a journey. So after Portsmouth, I moved to Wales and I did a postgraduate degree in journalism. And then I worked as a journalist for about 10 years.
Mm.
And also when I worked for the BBC in London, I stayed with Kaiko for a little bit. So I worked in broadcast media, print media, did lots of factual programs and documentaries. I think I've always been really interested and intrigued in lots of different things. And, journalism was something that I could do and, I could investigate everything.
Mm.
Um, and then about 10 years ago,
Mm.
I decided to return to academia. I think maybe I had a bit of an early midlife crisis or something. I was like, what do I really want to do with my life? What am I really, really interested in? Um, and obviously doing research was really nice. That's what I did for 10 years in journalism. But I guess I went through this stage of self-inquiry that you've talked about as well in your sort of earlier episodes. So finding my creative energy again after having had kids. So at the time, I had a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I've always found different cultures and languages really, really interesting. I speak maybe, I don't know, 6 languages to a certain extent. And in my 20s, I lived in 12 different cities across Europe and in South America as well. And then I was like, oh, what am I really interested in? Obviously, it's going to be languages. So, yeah, I think you also, in your early episode, you talked about the calling, is this my calling?
Yes.
I really, I feel like helping other families and people by sharing information is important to me. When I had young children, I would have needed this information about how to raise my multilingual kids. It would have been really good to know that, it's not necessarily straightforward if I'm going to be the only person who speaks a language to them. So a bit more context, I think. I live in Wales still. And at the time I was raising my kids trilingually. So I speak with them in Finnish. They go to a Welsh medium school and they speak English in the community and with some family. And I found that somehow my son was picking up all of these languages with ease at age 2. So, wow, okay. But then this wasn't the case in many other families around me. So, and some people would tell me about what I now know is called language regret. And this is when you don't learn the language or languages of your parents. And this is quite common in certain contexts. And I was just really intrigued, and I thought, I want to do some research about multilinguality of the children. Why are some kids learning their languages? Why are other children not learning their languages? And what are the lived experiences like for the children? And how about the parents? What's going on? What's going on in there? So, I took a deep dive. I did a PhD on this. And now I've spent over 10 years doing research in the field of sociolinguistics. So first a PhD, and now I'm doing a postdoc. And I look at different transnational, multilingual, international families and their family language policy. So that's like a short introduction
No,
of
that's amazing.
what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
When I first met Kaisa, it was fascinating to see somebody who speaks more than, 2 languages. Because I could just only speak my language and then also English. And then she was switching freely from Finnish to English to Spanish to French, and with ease. And then I was like really fascinated. So I really feel it's your gift, really.
Okay, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think for me, well, I think for none of us English is our first language, is it? Well, Fernando, do you speak
No.
English as well? No, there we go.
I speak English y español. Me imagino que también hablas español, un poquito.
Sí, claro, bueno, he
Bien.
pasado algo tiempo en Chile, en España también.
Wow, it's always interesting. I've had a couple of clients myself that are multilingual, or in Spanish they're called polyglotas. And I had a client that said to me something in those lines of, can't remember exactly the words, but he says like, having the chance or the opportunity to know different languages is like almost having a what is it called? Like, yeah, like a different soul, like a different way of touching the soul of the other person. When somebody speaks in your language, you there's something that makes click, within yourself. So I don't know. It was very interesting to hear that. Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think it's for my PhD, I interviewed these parents, and they were describing how it does open doors to other worlds. Speaking different languages, it really you have more opportunities, and you understand things better. You understand more around you, and I think it's just beautiful. So that's why I really want to promote multilingualism, and I think I don't want other families to have language regrets where they struggle to transmit or pass a language to their children. Obviously, yeah. So I think my first message is that, raising bilingual or multilingual children is not always easy. People say, oh, children are like sponges, but not necessarily. My case, for my PhD, I interviewed 14 case study families, and the parents actually found that quite often the language transmission or transmitting languages, multiple languages to the kids can be really challenging. It can be exhausting. It can be almost impossible. And quite often the parents, they expected the languages to be much better than the reality of sort of transmission outcomes. So they would assume that the child would speak the language of the parent much better. So say I'm talking about the foreign heritage languages, like for me would be Finnish, and because I live in Wales, for my children, it's a heritage language. So it hasn't had as much input. So it's not going to develop necessarily at the same rate as, say, for instance, English. And sometimes it's just not possible if you only have one parent transmitting a language, and it requires a lot of work. So, and then also I interviewed 32 kids as part of my study, and all of the children at some point, they resisted one of the languages. They said, oh, I'm not speaking your language anymore. So they just found it more difficult. And I guess here we come into language anxiety. So I have an Instagram account where I share some of my research and other research about multilingualism. And I asked my Instagram followers, do you get language anxiety? Do you feel anxious when you have to speak another language? And all of them said yes. And I guess I get that as well. And I can imagine if a child is still learning to speak a language, it can be quite scary for them. I don't know. Do you get language anxiety? Do you feel like, oh my goodness, I have to speak this foreign language in front of people, or like, do you feel
Absolutely. Absolutely, Kaisa. As I was listening to you, I was thinking about my own examples with with my family. It's one of the things that my wife and I, we have two kids, and we decided since the early age that one of the must was they need to learn another language. In this case, it was English, so it's Spanish and English. And in my case, I learned English when I was a kid watching cartoons. That was that was the only good thing that I got from maybe from TV at that time. So there was this almost like a parent. So as you're talking about, parents transmitting this to children, the values, the frame that we want our children to have as part of of the resources. Yeah, we wanted that. So there was, I think, a little bit of anxiety from our part as parents, so that hopefully they learn, another language, and we could see the benefits of how many doors that has opened me in this case, and I want that for my kids. So yeah, totally, I understand that part.
And I believe Kaiko has told me that they speak beautiful English now.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. We made it. We did it.
Oh, amazing. Wow. Yeah, but then again, I think that's not the case for lots of families who don't have the kind of support around them. And there's, I wrote this down. So there's something called harmonious bilingual development, is a term by Professor Annika Hoover, and she says this is experience of well-being in a language contact situation involving young children and their families. And I guess, Fernando, in your case, this was happening. I guess you had sort of well-being around the family language, sort of English development, because I don't know, in Mexico, people do you have TV in English as well, or are there communities who are English speakers?
I mean, it's very interesting, in like the social setting is important wherever you live here in Mexico. I mean, if you live close to the border, I find that there's more, perhaps because of the how societies are structured, just in the border. I mean, there's always a lot of migration. There's always a lot of movement, and we
Mm.
are exposed more in this case, to the culture elements of the US. And we have here channels from just across the border
Mm.
that just mm, have TV shows in English. So we grew up with that versus maybe somebody that's more on South Center, Mexico, where there's not much of exposure. I mean, nowadays I think there's more because of YouTube, social media, and all of these other
Mm.
ways. But yeah, this is it depends. It depends on where you live in Mexico. Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess sort of if the child does say if they lived at this in the southern parts of Mexico, they might have limited language input in English, or in some cases, say if you move to Australia, to the outback of
Uh-huh.
Australia,
Hmm.
and you had to teach your children Spanish, and you might be with your wife the only person speaking
Mm.
Spanish to
Hmm.
your children, then it could be a little bit more challenging, possibly. And
Mm.
in my case study families, lots of them had international moves, and quite often it was
Mm.
just one parent who spoke a language to the children, and there was nobody else around them.
Then it's
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So then it's a lot more difficult. Say if it's just one parent, say after school or daycare, then there might not be this harmonious bilingual development. Then there could be frustrated or conflictive bilingual development within the family, and that can then lead to the child not learning a language. So often it was the foreign-born parents, like myself, that found foreign heritage language transmission really challenging and difficult and
Mm.
frustrating and hard work and exhausting. And this is not something that I kind of thought about when I thought, of course, my children are going to speak Finnish, but it's not always the case. There are many, many half Finnish people around the world who don't learn Finnish, who don't speak Finnish. And then there could be the
Mm.
sort of language regret, if you like. And then
Hmm.
also there are lots of negative feelings for the children as well. They can feel overwhelmed as well,
Mm.
um, by having to learn all these languages, or they might find juggling different languages really complicated. Some children might have to start school or daycare in a
Mm.
language that they don't speak yet, and
Mm.
this is what the children described as really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Mm. Kaisa, I have a couple of questions that I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you. Is that
Mhm.
so? If I don't know if this is in the same, I think it is in the same context. If a parent, you know, wants to start, teaching their kids, you know, another language, or like they want to promote them to learn their language of origin,
Yeah.
Spanish, Finnish, Japanese, English, in there in another country. What would be perhaps some of the things to consider that could be helpful for the parents? And also, we're talking about this element of anxiety, and this element of regret, maybe to help parents to uh, help them understand that that's also part of this learning journey. So any thoughts on that, Kaisa?
Wow. Okay, I have loads of advice. But
Yeah.
then again,
Go for it.
I think one approach or strategy that works, say, for my family might not work for another family. So, because I think
Hmm.
every family, every child, every parent,
It's like,
every context, every situation is unique. So, or some families might have additional needs, like my family, or speech impediments. There's a lot going on, because we're all on a different journey. But sort of, normally I tell the families just to first think, how is the well-being of the family if a child does not speak the language of the parents? Or, are they going to have the language regret? Or will they have a language that the children can speak with, say, grandparents or cousins, extended family? Um, and what are the implications if a certain language is not transmitted or is transmitted? But then I think it's important to think about, is there the language doesn't have to be perfect. There's this term ambilingualism, and this is the perfect ability of a person to speak two or more languages, that's exactly the equal fluency. That's a myth.
Mm.
And I certainly don't speak all of my languages perfectly or at equal fluency. I still pronounce things funny in English, and that's perfectly fine. Maybe some languages, they can be secondary. You don't have to speak all the languages perfectly. And I think that's really, really important. Yeah, and I think I always tell the families, it's important to have a clear plan. How are you going to transmit the languages? Who's going to speak the languages? How about school language? That's going to be a really determining factor, obviously. And it's important to involve the child from the start. So explain why some languages are important. It's important for you to speak English because of your future opportunities, or maybe Albanian is your grandparents' language, and that's your roots. That's why it's important. So the children kind of understand why it's important, because the children are, like I said, they are going to resist the languages at some point unless they are surrounded by it. They're going to say, I don't want to speak it anymore. Or at the school gates, my daughter said, can you not speak Finnish? It's a bit embarrassing. Oh, that broke my heart.
Okay.
She's okay.
Oh, yeah.
So involving the children from the start and explaining why this is happening. And like I said, if there's just one parent, often it's just not enough to transmit a language. You are likely to need a local language community or other people for support. And obviously there are lots of different strategies. But what I found in my study, that many parents, they created this language support network where they lived to help their children speak a language. So they would go to weekend language classes of church, or set up a Saturday school, a community school, or just a language group. And the parents who did not have this support locally, they said that they struggled with the transmission a lot more. And also these groups, they kind of give language exposure, but they're necessary for the child to develop their identity, their language identity, their multilingual identity, and feel pride in their multilingual identity. And this applies to other languages as well. So if there are people who speak different languages around you, I think that's really beautiful. I met this assistant head teacher of a school in London. The school was Kensington Primary, and they have children who speak over 50 different languages within that school. And I thought, wow, that's beautiful. They have a multilingual library. They have all kinds of approaches of promoting these different languages. And obviously this encourages the children to be really proud of who they are and be open-minded and interested in other languages. But yeah, I just wish my kids could have gone to that school. It just sounded so amazing. Yeah, so basically you need language speakers around you. I'm trying to think what I've done myself. I've had au pairs in the past from Finland when the kids were younger. So that way my children would hear Finnish not just from me, but from other people. They could hear adult conversations. Obviously, it's a very artificial environment, but it really helped. Then there's a lot of information online. There are language consultants, many of who I've interviewed for my socials. They provide services for multilingual families who might be struggling. And then there are charities who provide free information for families. I volunteer for a charity that is based in Scotland. It's called Bilingual Family. Our website is bilingualfamily.org. And basically our aim is just to give research-based information for parents, advice for educators who might be who might have bilingual children in the classroom. There are lots of guides and articles. So I think now there is a lot more information online as well than there was in the past. But I think the most important thing is just to speak with a child and surround the child with the speakers of a language, and find this extended family network of speakers where you live, and do immersion visits like I'm in Finland now with my daughter, and that's really important. She goes to science camp, and she's just surrounded by this monolingual environment where she has no choice but to speak Finnish. That's really,
Mm.
really um,
Mm.
also I heard this from somebody else. It's a very very nice. She's got a summer job now, so reading is really, really important.
Oh.
So I pay her to read books in English, a little bit more money for Finnish or Welsh. But you know, it
Uh-huh.
works. And reading is so, so, so important. And I can imagine if you have a
Mhm.
language like Japanese,
Mm.
that's an extra effort.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wonderful.
those are the ones that came to mind now.
No, it's
I'll think of
wonderful.
something
That's
else.
awesome.
Mm.
Yes. So I mean, yeah, that's wonderful. I love it because it again, it for me, it just tells me the importance of community, the importance of being part of a network, having a supportive setting that
Mm.
it can provide you not just with information, but to feel supported. And nowadays, yes, you're right. There's more information. There's more perhaps resources than there were
Mm.
20, 30 years ago. So yeah, thank you for that, Kaisa.
Mm.
Um, mm, the other question that I have, more than a question. Well, yeah, what for you has been, you know, when what you do with what you do, what is perhaps the satisfaction, or what brings you satisfaction, what brings you joy, when you're doing what you're doing, your calling, this commitment, what as I like the term, what brings up what's alive in you, when you're doing this.
I feel like I'm just really happy to provide this information, like I said earlier, that I would have needed when I was growing up. But I feel like I've learned a lot myself as well.
Mm.
Um, there's the topic of sort of self-compassion, and this is something that I've learned from the children of my case study families.
Mm.
So I think lots of the children, they said, "Oh, I don't speak one of my languages." They all spoke three, four, five languages so well, but then they were sort of they were able to say that, you know, this is just because of I haven't been exposed to this language so much. You know, some of the children were 4 years old, so these were not their words, but they said, "Oh, I haven't been to lessons, so that's why I don't speak Finnish so well." So
Mm,
they had this ability to show self-compassion, and this
Mm.
is something that I really learned from the children. So I interviewed these kids. They were all aged between 4 and 12, 32 kids, and they were just able to. I talked about the unbilingualism and how we don't have to be perfect in everything. And the children, they realized that much earlier than I did, that you don't have to be perfect in everything. And um, yeah, so the kids would say, I haven't had enough lessons, opportunities to speak this language. And
mm,
that's why I found language is just a bit more difficult. And I feel like self-compassion is important in other parts of life. You know, I'm thinking about I've been learning Welsh for over 10 years. And there have been times when I've had to drop out of the course, but in that time, you know, in the past 10 years, I've done a PhD. I worked with very little childcare. I've lost family members. I've had no village to
mm.
support me, all the emotional load. So it's okay that my Welsh is not perfect. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So this is like a
Yes.
lesson that I've really learned. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I'd love. Obviously, you're expert in this field, so I'd love to hear your views of sort of
Hmm.
self-compassion or how to practice it of in other areas of life or yeah.
Yeah. Um, I was listening to what you were sharing, and immediately, the element of self-compassion. Let me see if I can translate that in there is a term in Spanish, it's like the term of compasión, just
Mm.
to be part of the other person's passion, for when we say the other person is going through a journey. So the compasión is like to be part of the other person's journey. So when we talk about self-compassion, we're talking about, being present and being available with your passion, but passion referring into just life itself, being present with everything that life is sharing with you, the ups and the downs.
Mm.
But I think one of the best things we can do is be available with ourselves. And some of us have that privilege of having that space to be able to discern and to think
Mm.
and to mm, process.
Mm.
Some families don't.
Mm.
So, I mean, and this is a in many ways could be a privilege. We're here, talking, in this setting, and so the first thing is to be available for yourself, to be present with yourself. Compassion is to be part of this journey
Mm.
with the other person, in this case, self compassion, to be
Mm.
part of this journey with yourself. Am I present, mind and body? Am I available with myself?
Mm.
Am I allowing myself to feel my emotions in a setting that feels safe? Do I have a proper space uh, in my home? A corner maybe that I can just sit down and breathe or pray or meditate or just do some grounding, bottom up, because the body is sending us more information all the time than our minds. Our minds tell us really good information, but our bodies are always telling us a lot of information. So one of the, I think, of the opportunities that we have is first to focus on our breath, to ground ourselves. If we are too agitated, then we need to do something to release a lot of that, perhaps adrenaline, a lot of that inner jittery movement.
Mm.
So finding a space when we can ground ourselves. And as parents, being a parent myself, and one of the best gifts that we can give our children is to learn how to self-regulate ourselves.
Mm.
And we can self-regulate by, again, making those brief moments along our day,
Mm.
having a specific routine,
Mm.
you know, and knowing what for am I, doing those little habits along the day,
Mm.
waking up in the morning, having a moment of gratitude, or starting with exercise, um, making it part of your life for to self-regulate.
Mm.
And so that is as a baseline. But
Mm.
again, the first thing is compassion. I'm walking with myself. I'm being present. I'm being available for myself. If I'm available for myself, I'm going to be available for others, my kids, my friends, my family, whoever.
Mm.
Learn to be present as much as possible. So those are some things we can start with. Then
Mhm.
um, another thing, of course, is the basics from proper sleep, exercise, a proper diet, uh, healthy eating choices as well. Because we want to be self-regulated, but if our minds are starving, if we're not having proper nutrition, again, this is also a privilege, and I know that, in some people, and sorry, in some families,
Mm. Mm.
this is not a possibility. So yeah, taking all some of those things into consideration.
Yes.
Kaisa, so if our audience, if people that are listening to us want to learn more about, about what you do, where they
Mm.
can find more information about, what you share with us, can you give us your Instagram, your new projects that are coming up? Want to share that with the audience?
Okay, so I'm at the moment I'm writing a book which is
Wow.
based on my research. Yeah, so it's out next year in 2026. I wrote the working title here. So it's Multilingual Family Language Policy and Wellbeing, Language Ideologies, Strategies and Experiences. So it's going to be published next year by Multilingual Matters. So I'm writing it so that it's sort of accessible to all kinds of readers, not just for academic audiences. So anybody who might be interested in language transmission or multilingualism. That's what's happening at the moment. I also mentioned I have an Instagram profile. It's very much multilingual. It's called Monikieliset perheet, which is basically multilingual families, but in Finnish. So I mainly write in Finnish, but Instagram does translate all of the texts. And there are videos on lots of different languages, lots of tips from experts, from other parents, in different languages at least. I've got Italian, Spanish, Swedish, English, and Finnish so far, I think, and I got some Welsh speakers coming up as well. So that's the easiest way of finding out more about my research.
Yeah, I checked the Instagram and it was very interesting. Lots of short interviews, easy to watch, subtitles, and everything. It was very good. So
brilliant.
I checked it out myself as well, and then, I saw there was like a translation part, like, oh, okay, I can understand what this is about. So yeah,
I kind of wanted to do it in Finnish because there is a lot out there in English, and it's also good for my Finnish because I haven't lived in Finland since the 90s. So I love a bit of a challenge to actually produce something in Finnish because mostly I work in English.
Awesome. Well, I think we can start wrapping it up so that it also is not that long. Any last messages? Anything else, Kaisa, Kaeko, that you want to share before we close this episode? Anything else?
As I listened to Kaisa, her journey today again, I just realized that I had kind of witnessed as she was creating, for example, Saturday schools in Wales and everything. So she was, she was putting her so much effort into it. So it's very eye-opening to listen to all these again in this setting. So I'm so glad that you made it. We made it. Yeah. So
Kaisa, I appreciate that you are part of this project as well. And it was very nice to hear, about these terms. And I had no idea, that there is a term for that, that's the language regret. It's like, yeah, I have that. I had that when I was, sharing. My wife also was like, I gotta teach them my kids, and now anxious bilingual development. I like that. I think I have that myself. It's like, so thank you for that, and for this for this interview. Thank you so much, Kaisa.
No, thank you for having me. It's been really nice to share what I feel passionate about. So thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So keep creating. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we can then close our session today, and just thank you to everybody out there that's listening to this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kaisa, again. Thank you, Kaeko, and everybody. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again in another episode. So remember to stay curious and keep creating, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.